What's up, you guys? We're back with another episode 2. In this episode, we kind of talk a little bit about the Chicago Blackhawks project, what that's been like from start to finish, break down everything from pre-production to post-production, and kind of what the whole project's been like for us.
So this episode is super unique because we shot it at the time where everything was going on. This kind of gives you guys an in-depth look of everything that we were doing at the time of doing all the production, the manufacturing, and just fresh off the content. Really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Cool deep dive into everything that we did with the Chicago Blackhawks. Called this one a part 1. We have episode 3 coming out, which will also be more of a deep dive of that and kind of bringing the whole project together and everything that we'll be doing moving forward. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
All right, welcome back to the DISHIN podcast. I'm here with myself, Jared, and Maddie. We got a pretty special episode for you guys today. We're going to talk a little bit about a project we've been working on for the last, God, feels like the last 6 months, I want to say, right? Is that accurate?
I think so. Summer. So how long ago was summer? 4 months, 5 months?
Yeah, 4 or 5
months.
I mean,
we're a little
in,
longer. It's a little snowy today.
Yeah.
But yeah, excited to get this one going. As Cavo said, obviously a big project that's pretty important to the group and has gone back a long time now. So excited to dive into it. But yeah, Maddie, why don't you just tell us a little bit about why we're here to begin with and what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, we're here because we have a collaboration with the Chicago Blackhawks, which is debuting on November 26th, which is crazy to say, but it's real life, and it's crazy, and it's here, and it's our first NHL team we've worked with on the DISHIN side to do an actual merch collab with, and so excited to get into it.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest projects we've been able to work on. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into it. I think most people that are watching this, you're going to, see the drop when it comes out, see all the merch and stuff. But really the main reason we want to do this is just give people a look behind the scenes a little bit. There's a lot that goes into it, as Maddie will get into a little bit. So kind of just wanted to peel back the layers a little bit and get into that. But yeah, how long about did this go back? And how did this even come about to begin with? Because again, for people seeing this, people see the drops that come out, they see the collabs and stuff, but, how does a brand just, start working with the Chicago Blackhawks? Like, that's a pretty big thing. So
Nick, when did they hit us up?
Probably back in the Seneca 1 days when we were in there, because originally I think they had reached out about skate skins, which we were going to try and do something with them, and we were still kind of early on with, like, the skate skins venture, what I remember, and yeah, I mean, that's...
I think it just goes to show, like, how long we've known the Blackhawks for. I think we've known them already for like 3 years, but
yeah, I was gonna say before we even start, even like just for those watching who don't really know, like when we were in Seneca 1, we were there we were at Derek, one of you guys, 2021 we were in there, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we were there for about 6 months. So
yeah, so they reached out to us originally, and we were going to do a project on skate skins, but, I mean, at the time, everything going on didn't happen. But, yeah, that's just a good backstory to know, like, how long we've known them. But yeah, fast forward to now, like we were saying, I feel like we knew so many people there. It was kind of just a really natural thing for it to come to be. But, yeah, they had reached out to us early this summer, and we kind of kicked it off right away. We had an initial call with them and really had an opportunity to listen about where they were with the brand. And I think this was before they got Bedard.
Yeah, this was before they even won the lottery. Before they were even predicting that they were going to maybe
and a backstory.
Remember
we were watching the lottery and we saw Bedard go to Chicago, and you texted me, and do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I texted you and Benny. I think at the time I was like, "This is going to be massive."
Yeah,
for not just for the Hawks, but also for us, because we have such a built relationship from 2021 up until this point. So. It's been fun, man. Like, the hype around that team is just insane.
Yeah,
like,
it's gone to another level since all the Bedard stuff. What was kind of the initial, like, scope of the project? You mentioned, like, they were interested in skate skins a little bit. Obviously, there's the two different brands between DISHIN, skins. DISHIN do a bunch of different stuff between video, merchandise, content, everything like that. So when you guys first started talking, was it, like, merch right away? Or, like, what was kind of their initial idea that they thought could make for a good partnership with us?
Merch right away. They wanted to try and find a connection to a younger fan base, that Generation Z type audience. And, with everything we've been able to build up with the brand up to this point, I felt like we had a really great handle on that generation as a whole, and still do. And yeah, so the Hawks came to us and they wanted to have an opportunity to tap into that a little bit more, which is really humbling for us to see such a big organization like that lean on our guidance of guiding them to this new fan base, which is really cool. And ever since then, it's been a great partnership of us to work with them. And even going back to the backstory of like how we got talking to him, like we've worked with Sherwood for a while now, and when Bedard signed with them, that was like a great introduction, I feel like, for us with them too. So it just has felt like so natural from the jump, and I don't know, it just has been so easy for us to work together up until this point already. So
yeah. So like from the design side, when it comes to like really narrowing down, obviously you got the hat on, there's a couple different, you know, products and stuff coming out with the drop. Like, what was that initial kind of idea? Did they come to you and say, you know, we want to do hoodies, we want to do hats, we want to do whatever? Or what was that kind of process like, narrowing down, like, okay, this is going to be the full like, capsule of the drop?
Yeah, they didn't really say. They kind of gave it up to us and said, why don't you take it and run with it? What would you do if you had a merch collaboration with the Chicago Blackhawks?
Yeah.
And we kind of looked at each other, and, you know, it took us a couple weeks to kind of put some ideas on a board. And, you know, we sent some stuff over originally that I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day, but I would love to just like someday show like the prototypes and the original designs that went into building this collaboration, what it is now. But yeah, I think initially we had a pretty small spread. We had only like 2 hats and a shirt, maybe a hoodie in there too. And then we were just like, why don't we just build this out like if we were going to do a regular collection on our own?
Exactly.
And just use the Hawks branding and have it be a collab.
I remember you Snapchatted me one day, and it was just like an Adobe Illustrator sheet of like 30 logos or something like that. And I was just like, holy shit. And they were all fire too. And like you said, a lot of those aren't even going to see the light of day. Hopefully someday we can share some of those. But yeah, I think that's what's so cool about a project like this too, is again, as I mentioned, like people just kind of see, you know, the final drop, and it might only be a few different SKUs or whatever it is, but there's been so much refinement throughout the whole 6 months or whatever it's been, of just really narrowing down to what it's going to be. And I think that's super cool. And you kind of touched on there too, like they kind of gave us like full creative control. So like, what was that kind of like? You know, you guys can both kind of touch on this just in you know, having like the keys to the car, I guess, or whatever, however you want to say it, of just like, okay, where do we even start from here? And kind of figuring out what you guys want the designs and stuff to be.
I think the craziest piece of all this is that we did it without a brand deck or an official logo sent to us by the Blackhawks.
Hell yeah.
Like we bootlegged this whole shit, like, because we would do it like how we would normally do it.
For sure.
But it's like an official collab where like we're able to work with them and go back and forth and be like, do you guys like this? Could we go in this direction? And we kind of go back and forth. So I think to answer your question, like originally at first for us, like we thought it'd be really cool to incorporate the feathers a bit more. But the logo is so iconic in general that we just like, we're like, has to be the staple piece of the collab. Let's try to find a way to take their brand and their logo, you know, keeping it as original as possible and trying to put our spin on it. So ultimately that's what brought us to the smiley guy character, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little bit later. But yeah, it was just a tough one for us because we were trying to find a way to keep it as original 6 and, you know, novel as possible, because the original is so, you know, historic in its own way. But trying to put our own spin on it. And
I think you made a good point there about, like, again, it can be, I think, stressful if you put the pressure on yourself of like, yo, this NHL team is like trusting us to make this whole collection. But you made such a great point in the sense that like we do this for so many teams anyway, just for fun. So it's kind of just, you kind of just do it naturally of like, okay, you know, even if this wasn't an official collab, like exactly like you said, if we were going to do a merch drop at the Blackhawks, like what would that look like? And I think by doing it that way, it kind of stays true to, you know, your vision for everything, and, you know, the way we do kind of all of our different drops and stuff. And then again, kind of staying within those parameters of like respecting the history of the team and their logos and all the marks and stuff like that. But yeah, just to like back up a little bit too, like why don't you just tell us where we're kind of at in the context of like the full project? Because there's, you know, a lot of different, the whole timeline, it's been a very like long process, and it's not, you know, quite crossed the finish line yet. Maybe when people are seeing this, the drop will be coming out pretty soon. But where are we at right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, the collab doesn't start without Matt, right? Because Matt is, like, you know, on the design, on the merch. Like, it all starts with him, right? So once that's kind of nailed down, and, like, once we've come together as a group and decided on, like, every piece that we wanted to go out, what we liked, or, like, what design we wanted to go with, present to the Hawks, you know, you take it to the Hawks, you know, we kind of go back and forth. Okay, well, they like this, that, and the other thing, but let's stay away from this because it's more of like a touristy style. We don't really want that. Like we want something that's a little more like authentic, real, but also something that like is, you know, kind of throwing your guys' brand on our branding as well. So again, it really doesn't start, you know, everything doesn't kind of start without Matt. So like once kind of Matt had those designs in, that next phase is kind of figuring out creative. Okay, so like, you know, what is it going to look like on video? What are the photos going to look like? You know, how is this merchandise going to look to the end consumer, right? So that's when we kind of go in, like once the designs were kind of finalized, we'll go in and figure out, you know, how do we want to introduce this brand to the Chicago Blackhawks fan base, but also like how can we introduce this collab to the following that Matt was talking about of that younger generation.
For sure.
And right now we had our pre-production phase that we had already gone through with Matt, having all the design and merchandise ready for the Hawks. So now all of that's done, right? So now we go to doing the actual promo shoots. So like the video shoots, the photo shoots, which we just wrapped up our first big shoot last week. So right now we're in our post-production phase where we're kind of going through and editing all the videos, getting the shoot photos and stuff like that all done and taken care of. So I don't know, like that part's, again, none of that starts without Matt. So it's kind of where we're at right now. We're in that post-production phase and trying to figure out now, you know, what content's going to look like when it rolls out, as well as the, you know, press release and things like that. So
I think that's been like one of the coolest parts for me to watch, especially like with the shoot last week, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I think like we've talked about kind of just amongst ourselves too, just like the different capabilities amongst our group of like, you know, we're not just making the merchandise. Like you may see other brands do merch collabs with, you know, big teams or whatever it may be, and then it goes out and it might just be, you know, a mock-up on just like a still graphic or whatever, where it's like, obviously we got our guy Derek here behind the camera, and shout out the Legacy House team and everyone that, you know, crushed the shoot and everything we did last week. But I think just like really being able to build out a drop and just like this entire rollout that's so much bigger than just, you know, making the merch. I think that's one small piece in it, and obviously a ton went into that as well. But I think, you know, it's probably, I'm interested to know, like, even what that's like from kind of the team side of things, because I bet they go and work with other brands, like other teams do as well. And, you know, you work with other brands that don't have the capabilities to do all that kind of stuff. So that was like one of the most impressive things for me to just watch, is this whole thing, you know, kind of just unfolded, is like last week, just, you know, doing this whole pretty much like professional, high quality commercial shoot. And, you know, it's not, you know, the Blackhawks directing it. It's, you know, our group internally, which I think was super, super sick. So, yeah, in terms of like, I think one thing people would be interested to know a little bit more about from the outside is, again, just like what it's like kind of working with an NHL team. And obviously we've had the privilege now to work with different teams and athletes and players and stuff like that. So maybe just in like, you know, a couple sentences or however you want to describe it, like how would you maybe encapsulate what it's like to work with a team like the Blackhawks? Again, Original Six, like there's plenty of amazing hockey organizations out there, but the Blackhawks are, you know, the Blackhawks. They're one of the biggest in the world. And I think, you know, as we've seen, obviously we pay attention to culture and all the different athletes and artists and different people that like wear other brands and stuff and culture. Like the Blackhawks are at the top when it comes to that. Like they're bigger than hockey, I think, in a sense. So I guess when it comes to working with them, is it like what you expected? Is it more like personable? Did we have more creative control than you would have expected sort of going in? What was your overall thoughts on, you know, working with a team like that?
I mean, I don't know if you would agree with this. And Derek, I know like when we went to Chicago, I'm sure you guys might both agree with this. I thought it was very personable. Like they really like, and from what I mean when I say personable, I mean they really let us do what we kind of wanted. Like Matt said, they basically gave us the keys to, you know, to have creative control over this. Yeah. And we really tried to, you know, just throughout our meetings and calls, you know, leading up to where we're at today, I felt like we really made sure that they were okay with that. Like they really made it a point, like, no, you guys can handle, like you guys are good. Like you guys can handle the creative on this. We want you guys to do that. This is your brand. This is your thing. We want to give you guys the key to the kingdom, basically. So like to be able to do that with not just an NHL team, but an Original Six team. And, you know, I think I don't know if we've talked about, I don't know, we haven't talked about this. I know you and I talked about it, but like I used to watch Patrick Kane highlights when I was a kid before every hockey game. So like to be able to do something like this with an Original Six team, the Blackhawks, like it's just a unreal moment. And honestly, I honestly thought it would have been a lot more corporate going into
sure.
it. I thought.
Me too.
But when we, as calls and meetings progressed and the conversations progressed, they really gained our trust over the years and things like that. So I think like that really helped. And also just going there and meeting everybody face to face for the first time ever and not on Zoom, I think was a huge benefit to kind of really pushing this and having this progress into where we're at now, which is the post-production phase of the project.
Yeah, we'll get into the
I want to hear what he has
the presentation and stuff. Yeah, I'll circle back to you really quick. But for me too, again, that was probably the biggest thing I was just surprised about. Is I think you hit it on the head. Is like from the outside perspective, you're like, okay, you're working with an NHL team. You expect it to be this super like formal kind of corporate thing, and not to say that they weren't formal or whatever, but I think. Again, it kind of just speaks to the relationship you've built with the team and the past work and everything to where, again, like they want this to go super well too, but they still had the trust to hand over the keys and trust us with the commercial, trust us with the production and the merch and all that. But yeah, what were your kind of thoughts on all?
Yeah, I would echo everything that Nick said. The biggest thing that I found is I felt like there's so much synergy between what we do with the DISHIN brand and what they do with the Blackhawks, how they're operated. I feel like everything that we do between our group, everybody communicates. Everybody can talk to each other and know who's on what page. Everybody can be on the same page and know that everybody has their own skill sets. But that's what makes us a team, is how we can achieve this ultimate goal. And I felt like that was everything with the Blackhawks too, is like marketing, retail, e-com, social. All these different people are communicating with each other daily to reach this ultimate goal. Different every different division of the team is on the call with us, is on the email chain.
Yeah.
All these things are like all intertwined, and that's what the biggest thing I felt like. And to talk about Nick with the corporate, it's like everything was so chill. It's really been like that up to this point, which has been really cool and easy for us, and for them to trust us with that amount of creative control is really cool for us to be able to take the keys and go with it.
I feel like that's kind of the direction a lot of these teams need to sort of go to. Do you kind of feel the same way? Because I think if you're going to step outside of your comfort zone and you're going to do collabs like this and, kind of just expand outside of what your team's doing, I think you need to be really aligned between all the different departments and stuff, because that's how, again, you make it come together. Even like you said, sort of with us, is like the production guys, you needed to be aligned with Matt with the merch and be aligned with all the models and all the different kind of moving parts and stuff that went into it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Matt, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but would you say this project specifically is probably the most communication you and I have like ever had with this brand in the last 5 years?
Yeah,
I feel like we've talked
sure.
literally every single day since like the beginning of September.
We still are.
Literally.
I mean, yeah, we're in the thick of it
Literally.
right now. So it's like we're still, even the shoot last week, like we'll get into this a little bit, but I know Derek will attest to this too, but we were like over prepared, over dialed, like going into the shoot, like down to like the square inch of every piece of ice that we were going to be using to like know exactly how we're going to get the most out of it and exactly know like what we want the finished product to look like. So yeah, this project is like easily the biggest thing we've ever done. It still is like ongoing. It's crazy to think that we're like November just kicked off and like the drop is still a month away. So like whenever we drop this, it'll probably be a few days before, but I just want to set that baseline of just like where we are right now in the process and the journey of it all, which
I'm
is
getting
crazy.
goosebumps right now, like actually, like, so, I mean, I feel like too, we haven't really had time, even the Chicago trip, like when we went out there to present the actual brand and like what that was, like we still haven't really had time to like sit and really reflect on like what we're doing here now with this. Like it's just,
I think until we're there, like seeing it in person and all that. But yeah, let's get into the trip a little bit, because that is a sick story that I want to hear a little bit more from your guys' perspective. So for the people that don't
That's a
know,
good point though. I haven't really thought of it like that. We haven't slowed down at all with this stuff.
No, man,
Yeah.
like this shit's been nonstop for real.
All right, so the trip.
yeah. So Matt and Nick Matt and Nick went out to Chicago. When was that?
What day is it?
yeah, November 1st.
September 18th.
18th. Okay, yeah. So
it's engraved in my head.
You can touch on it a little bit more, but went out to present the brand to the Blackhawks, present the project, talk a little bit more about, again, just like the history of the brand, what the kind of mission is and everything moving forward. And when you guys first told me you're going to present to the Blackhawks, like I'm sitting here, we've all seen just like a corporate office before. When I was envisioning it, I was picturing like you guys on a whiteboard in a conference room with like 7 people. And then
I was picturing it a different way. I was picturing like a lecture hall.
okay, that's even more than what I was kind of expecting. But I don't know. I was thinking like, okay, small team, you guys are presenting it to, whatever. And then they go and they send a video of the presentation, and it's like I could barely see you guys in the video. I'm like, where are you guys? Like there's 300 people in the video that you guys were presenting to. So just tell the story from your perspective about like what that was like, what, you know, how the presentation went, and just your experience just walking out there, seeing all these different people that work for the Blackhawks and everything.
So backing up a little bit to our last segment, I want to give a shout out to Jerry and Dan and like everybody on the team that we've worked with on the Blackhawks, because none of this happens without any of them. And going back to like the different departments and the communication between everybody, like Jerry and Dan are like at the top, and like they really have made this whole thing run. So we just want to say thank you to them. But yeah, Nick, I remember like a couple weeks before the 18th, this is probably like early September, we had a call with Jerry and Dan. Like everything was cool. Like we had a good outline of a map of like where we were going, everything. And Jerry got to the end. He was like, I do have a favor to ask of you guys. Remember this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. He was like, he's like, I think originally he said one of you. He was like, I need one of you to come out to Chicago on September 18th to be a part of our pep rally, to do like a presentation and just like, you know, get everybody excited about this upcoming season and what we're going to be doing together. And I looked at Nick and I'm like, we were on Zoom live, and I was like, I can't go, but Nick can. And because
it's like completely kind of sewered me. I'm like,
no,
like,
yeah, but I mean,
keep in mind too, like we have other ongoing projects aside from this between like skates between Skins, DISHIN, and like Legacy House. But like, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, but we were about to have a baby, dude, and like that week.
We'll touch on that too, because that's a big part of this.
So yeah, like fast forward to like the trip, and like I'm just thinking to myself, like there's no way I can't go to this trip. And I tell Lex about it, and she's like, there's no way, you just have to go. There's no way you can't not go to this. I'm like, I'm going. So we plan it all out, and then Nick, we had like a week to do a dry run of a presentation.
It was like a 20-minute long presentation, which on top of everything that we had going on with this project, again, with ongoing projects between DISHIN, Skins, the studio, like there's just so many things going on at one time. And on top of that, then we had to prepare this, which again, I want to also say thank you to Dan and Jerry for making this whole thing very easy and welcoming for us. So, I mean,
tell people a little bit about the presentation too. What was kind of the main premise?
Yeah, a lot of it was just like us kind of like introducing the brand, right? I mean,
yeah, for us personally, so we were presenting Hockey Hype. So Hockey Hype, like introducing that to the Blackhawks, and maybe from people that aren't as familiar with hockey and its traditionalism, kind of bringing it out of that rooted culture and putting the Blackhawks in this new direction moving forward, that they can help reach this younger audience and help the game and overall sport become more hype, in the Blackhawks in general. But yeah, the overall day was it was like a company pep rally. It was so dope. It's like when you go to a college football game and like you're playing Ohio State the next day, and like everybody's there like getting ready for this next game. It's like everybody was getting ready for the upcoming season. So yeah. I mean,
what was kind of the reception like afterwards? I know you guys got to meet some really cool people and everything. Maybe talk about that a little bit.
So Derek actually got his camera was rolling when this happened. Do you remember when we got off stage and we were talking to Chris?
I remember all this so well. It just happened.
Yeah. So I remember we got off stage. Chris Chelios' daughter comes up to us. She's on the broadcast team for the Hawks. She comes up to us and just said, you know,
Kaylee Chelios.
Yeah, Kaylee. She said, congratulations on all the success. We're excited to have you guys part of the Hawks family. And Panger comes right in out of nowhere, just like loops right around her and like shakes mine and Matt's hand. It was just like cool because
shout out Panger.
Yeah, Panger is just like a legend in the like just in the broadcast community. So it was that was pretty cool.
Soupy too, right?
Yeah,
dude,
big Buffalo guy.
We got on stage, like we're looking out. First of all, there's like a firework that goes off like right next to us.
Cryo going on.
Yeah.
Next to you guys.
Me and Nick do a dry run like the night
It's like a
before.
WWE entrance.
Yeah, and we were like, what are we getting into right now?
Yeah,
It's like,
we had no idea.
Gotta prepare for it. But yeah, I mean, get backstage, like, oh, we met CJ, who's also on the broadcast team with Panger, Kaylee Chelios, like, yeah, and then we walk out on stage like to present. Look in the crowd, first person I see is Brian Campbell.
Same.
Yeah.
That was like the first. Like when I said my name, I remember I saw him and I was like, "Damn, this is like a full circle moment for real." I mean, we were both grown up Sabres fans. I was a huge Campbell fan. I remember like Derek. He was saying he was at the Umberger hit when that happened. Like Dude, Soupy's a legend.
He is.
I know, like, everyone knows that here, so.
Yeah, he's doing great stuff with the Hawks and stuff too. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. You touched on this a little bit though, but we have a new member of the DISHIN family that arrived in the middle of this project. So, like, what was that like? Just trying to like, how do you even balance like where your mind is at any given day? When, as Nick said, like, there's outside of this, there's a million other projects going on too, but it's like you have the biggest project probably of your life with the brand so far, and then you also like are about to have a kid and stuff. You don't know maybe necessarily exactly when it's coming. It could come at any time in the middle of this project. Like, what the hell is that like?
Yeah, that was insane, dude. And I mean, like, the thick of it too is like doing all the production work, which we should get on into a little bit too. But yeah, I remember like going into it like a few weeks before we were gonna have the baby. Everybody was like, get all your work out of the way now. Like, get all your stuff done. And I'm just like, this is going to be awesome. Like, we're doing everything at once. And I don't know, I feel like for me it was like refreshing. I felt like it kind of gave me a good balance and an opportunity to like shut everything off when I was done, because the workload was so much that I was just like, it was kind of hard to escape at times. So I felt like this was a good outlet for me to kind of step away for good and focus my energy and my attention elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, looking back on the journey of this like story and the whole project as a whole, that is just like an incredible piece to all of us.
Yeah,
that it's just, yeah, and like to Alexis too, like to be able to support me and like have it all be reciprocated throughout, like everybody who helped out to make all this stuff happen. And like it goes back to like our community and everything that we do within the DISHIN family. I felt like everybody even stepped up to the plate even more than they already do to help get it all where it is today, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So
for sure. Yeah, you touched on the production stuff as well, and again, just kind of getting into some of the stuff that like people don't necessarily see. I think a lot of people that don't have any experience in any sort of merch or whatever, they probably just think, you know, you come up with a design, you print it on a shirt, and like it's good to go. Where, you know, down to the blank, the quality of the shirt, the actual design, the color palette, like every little thing had to be exact. And I know that like weighed on you a lot, and there was a lot of like back and forth of making sure everything like that was perfect. And I think it all came out great. Like we've all said, like the quality of the, you know, the hoodies and the shirts and everything, the hats, like we all are like very honest about with each other when, you know, we get merch and stuff of like if there's anything wrong with it or whatever. And I think almost across the board we were all like, wow, like this is probably some of the highest quality stuff that we've ever done. So what was that kind of process like of just getting that right and kind of in that timeline of like, you know, you have the designs done, mocked up, to actually having the products in hand and knowing like, okay, this came out great. Like, how long was that process maybe about, and what were maybe some of like the challenges throughout that?
This is the best stuff we've ever made, hands down. It is so dialed, like the quality, the detail, everything that went into it is like so on point. I feel like the production was crazy, dude. I mean, I spent like I think 4 days in a row just like up like from like 9 p.m. to like 7 a.m. like doing supplier work, like getting everything dialed and detailed. Like there was so much energy and focus that went into the smallest details of this project, and every piece of the merch was unlike anything I've ever done before on the supplier side of things. It was insane. And I mean, I've done stuff and I've learned stuff throughout this entire project with the production side that I didn't even know were possible, and that I'll take with other projects that we do. I mean, we sent color swatches and Pantone books to different suppliers to match the hoodies with the hats, and just like the overall quality of the blank itself, like we built that from scratch. We built the size chart. Everything about this project comes from us. And that's what's so cool about it, and that goes back to the Blackhawks as a whole, is because they gave us the keys and trusted us to do this from start to finish, which was so cool. And that means so much more to us because we were able to build a product that didn't exist before to what it is now. And it sets us up because like we love this blank of the shirt so much, and the quality and the feel and the collar and the thickness of it, like that we're going to take that and like use it for everything else we do.
Totally.
Because this is the best product we've ever made, I think personally. Like even down to the fit of the hats, like the embroidery and the fit and the A-frame and like everything about it, I think is really structured. And I think it just goes back to our detail of what we do every day with the work, of just like how committed we are to like the smallest details of every piece of the project. And I think that's ultimately what helped us build the product and why it was so good today.
For sure, bro. That's one of the, like, the big, I don't know if I'm sure you would agree, but that's like one of the biggest things I admire about like what you do and stuff too, because again, like coming up with the designs in Photoshop is like the fun part that, you know, is 1% of the project, but it's like there's so much tedious work, even to just the fulfillment, the, you know, once people get it, like what's the experience going to be like once they actually get their shirt, the tags, like the quality of it and everything. And I think really like the experience of like clothing is just so much more than just how the design looks, you know, on the screen and stuff. So I think that was super impressive, and like we all kind of said, like we completely nailed it. So bravo
Thanks.
to Matt on that.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, how about you? Because like as you kind of touched on, there's a lot of planning that kind of goes in from the start of like what the rollout's going to be like, what the video is going to be like, but you really can't do any of that stuff until the product is like in hand, and you're able to sort of, you know, start putting that together. So when did the process kind of start for you in terms of just, you know, thinking about what you want the rollout to be? I know this was like a collaborative effort as well, but just from your guys' end on like the video production side of like, okay, you know, these are the resources we're going to need, and really just like putting the idea together for it all.
Yeah, like I said earlier too, like it doesn't, you know, it all starts with Matt, right? So once he kind of has everything finalized, then we can kind of move into that. And I think like when we were kind of going back and forth on, you know, drop dates, release dates and stuff, obviously the merch came first, right? So the merch had to get done. Every piece of merch had to get to the Blackhawks. It had to get to us to use for content. But then it's like, okay, well, when the merch is like made, like I think at first we wanted to drop on home opener. And with that, I think the merch was coming in probably like 3 weeks before home opener. So just to kind of give you like a rough idea of like kind of where we were at first. I think we wanted to drop October 21st or something like that again, and the merch was coming in 3 weeks prior, which means we really only had those 3 weeks to produce content of some sort, right? Whether that be video, photo, you know, whatever. So our team at Legacy House and at DISHIN is comfortable working in those high pressure situations of quick turnaround, right? So Matt and I were in a lot of communication, just, you know, I had to really figure out, you know, how soon is this merch going to be done, so I can start planning on my end for what we need content wise and how quick this turnaround is going to be. And that process, like it was already kind of going on when Matt was already, you know, handling suppliers and really doing like the whole build out and of like what pieces were going to be in the drop, etc. But luckily now we're not dropping until November 26th, so that gave us a lot more time for production. And the merch was already going to be done in the beginning of October anyways, so it kind of worked out that way. But I guess ask that question one more time too.
No, I mean
like,
you walked through it pretty well. I just was curious about again the process too, because I think one thing that I was kind of curious about is like how challenging that is for you on the video side of like really planning stuff when you don't have stuff in hand already, or things aren't necessarily finalized on the design side, and really putting together a plan of like, you know, this is what we want the rollout and stuff to be. But like you said, I mean, you guys killed it on a really short time frame. And yeah, let's talk about the shoot a little bit, because I think we're what, 1 of 2 shoots down?
Yeah, probably 1 of 2.
So
we might need a third one in there, but I think we're pretty solid right now for where we're at.
So yeah, shoot number 1 was on the ice. So why don't you just talk to us about that a little bit, and just what it was like getting models together, getting everyone together, because that was one thing for me, like being there, is, you know, everything was very well organized. Everyone like pretty much knew what they were doing. I think, you know, you even said it went better probably than you initially expected maybe. Yeah. So, you know, what were kind of your thoughts on the overall shoot? And when you wrapped it up, I think it's one of those moments where it's like so much time goes into planning that shoot and all the small details that go into it. But when we finally wrapped up, I know you guys were like super thankful about just like how well it went and everything. So what were just like your overall thoughts on the shoot?
I felt like it went really well. Like we're pretty, our group as a whole, we're pretty good about just being over prepared for like anything, whether that be events, drops, you know, you name it. We're always over prepared with stuff. It definitely went a lot better than I thought it was going to go, because we had the ice from like 9 to 2. So we really had to be strategic on what scenes were being shot in what time frame, right? So, you know, Derek did an incredible job handling lighting, so I didn't really have to worry about that, and just more so worry about like how the overall picture on screen was going to look. Yeah. You know, I know Matt and I, like, the hardest thing I feel like, honestly, throughout that entire process, and I'm sure you might agree, Matt, was honestly finalizing a model list. Like, that shit was honestly, like, that was tough because we got to figure out availability. We're not only just looking at availability, but we're looking at looks too. You know, we don't want it to look like a Lululemon ad. We don't want it to look like a Bauer ad. We want this to look like a DISHIN times Hawks collab ad. So, like, it was really important for us to find the right people, and I think like Matt did a hell of a job really dialing that in, and you know, we had more than enough than what we needed. And honestly, at first I was a little nervous about how many models were going to be able to show up and how much time we were going to have with them, but it ended up working out, and everybody served a role, and everybody in our group had some sort of role, whether, you know, Derek with the lighting, or me and Adam kind of DPing, or Matt directing, or you and BVAS, you know, you, BVAS, and Tony handling, you know, being the first thing that the talent sees when they walk in. There's just, like you were saying, there's so many moving parts. That
I was on the aux too. That was a big responsibility.
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
on the aux?
A little bit, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chad's speaker was having some issues, but
Oh yeah, and Chad too.
I was
Yeah,
setting the
Yeah, I mean, everybody came out. I think we
shout
had
out to
30
Chad with the heads, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I was gonna get into like the actual like content production of like the video, like the creative that went into it too. But
One thing I just wanted to touch on really quick that I think you nailed is like, you know, really like curating an aesthetic with the shoot that matches like what we're going for. It's like, it's not like you just rented ice and we're just like shooting pictures of people in the merchandise on the ice or whatever. Like, I think being able to see some of the content that's coming out already, it was like, it feel like I was almost blown away by it because it's like it was so on point for exactly what you said. Like, it just felt like, you know, a DISHIN Hawks collab, which I think was sick. Shout out to Alex from Creative Connect too, everyone else that, you know, had a hand in the shoot, because yeah, it was really cool to watch and see everyone like pull together with their skill sets, and I'm really excited for everyone to see all that content too. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
My favorite part of the shoot day was just like having everybody there to witness it. I think that was so cool. Like, my dad came out too, and like the whole, I mean, everybody just like behind the cameras watching it go down. Like, the lighting was the sickest thing. I've never seen that sort of lighting and mooding in a mooding a word? Mood. Yeah, the moodiness in a hockey arena before. Like, that was so cool. It was, and yeah, and you guys said it perfectly. Like, we put our spin on like what would you do if you had a Blackhawks collab?
Yeah, for sure.
This is what we would do. This is how it would look.
Yeah.
So,
I think it takes like some balls too, just to put it bluntly, of like having the confidence too to make, like, say, okay, we're gonna make this just how we want it, and we're gonna send it to them and see what they think. And I think so far, again, like from the actual merch to the production to the content, like all of that, I think, you know, it's been amazing. So I think that's been sick. But yeah, dude, I think even like seeing like your little cousin sliding around, crashing into the boards the whole time, like, I think that was super cool. And I think that's one of the things that kind of makes like these moments and stuff kind of cool to look back on too. Like, we were talking about the grand opening party and stuff last year too, and I think, you know, you touched on this a little bit last week too, is just being able to do all this stuff with like some of our best friends is, you really can't kind of replace that. And then once it's over, being able to look back at it, you know, forever, like you said, being able to look back at it not only is just a moment for the brand, but like a moment for your family too, you're always going to be able to look back on, I think is super sick. So
that was the first time Millie was on ice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all that. You said it really well.
Sweet. So let's see. What about, you know, as we mentioned, the project isn't done yet, but maybe just favorite part of it so far, as we've kind of mentioned here a million times. Like, there's a ton of different things that go into it, but just favorite part of the project so far. And I guess, again, we're going to be going out to Chicago, seeing some of this stuff in person around the time when you guys are seeing this podcast. So, like, what are you most looking forward to when it's actually out?
I think the reaction from people, because I feel like and Matt and I, we've been talking about this. Like, we've been a little quiet on like social for a while. Like, we're pretty like in your face with, you know, just different content coming out, whether that be, you know, the player arrivals like Matt was doing, or with the Skate Skins product. You know, we've just been a little quiet on social. So I think
we've been busy.
Like, actually,
A lot to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm
true,
excited for that. Excited to see, you know, what people's reactions are, because I think there's a lot of people that follow this brand that are Hawks fans too, that I think are really gonna appreciate this and be super hyped about it. And I'm excited again just to see people's reaction. I hope that you know, people enjoy it, and hopefully, you know, people want to see more of this with other teams in the league, and hopefully we can kind of bring that creativity to the game. And I also, like, one thing too that, again, Matt and I, we talked about this a lot, is I think our group does a good job of, because, you know, like, we all played hockey in some capacity, right? Like, some of us ended that competitiveness at high school. Some of us have ended at, college, juniors, whatever that may be. But at the end of the day, like, I think our group does a very good job of showing people that, especially the hockey community, that you can still be relevant in the sport and still work in the sport that you have such a burning passion for. And like, you can do that in a way where, you can monetize it in some capacity, whether that be if you want to design, if you want to produce merchandise, if you want to produce videos, do photography, if you want to be a writer, like what you do with TCB. Like, there's so many different avenues you could go to stay in this hockey space and to, monetize what you're doing and what you want, and really find like what you want to do and what you're passionate about. I think that's something that a lot of people would hopefully take from this collaboration, that the sky's the limit if you just kind of stick to what you love and what you're passionate about.
No, that's a great
as
point.
Cheesy as it sounds.
Drop the mic.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So,
I kind of want to reframe my question a little bit. I'll get to your favorite part of everything so far too, but more so like, again, like there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of like, hard work that's kind of gone into it. So what are you most proud of, I guess, whether it's like the production side or again, just how the merch came out, the presentation, like any of it, what are you guys kind of most proud of being able to look back at like, holy shit, like that was a lot?
I'm so proud of how prepared we were throughout the whole thing. Like we went into the details of like the shoot and the production, all that stuff. Like we were so dialed from start to finish, and the preparation of everything that went into it has helped what make it is now. So I think I'm most proud of that, and I'm most proud of like how our group did. I think we all worked so well together, and I mean, there's so many moving parts that go into this. We only touched on like such a small amount, but it's just
part
insane.
one, by the way. We'll get into some more as well.
Yeah, I would say those two things. Yeah.
Sweet. How about you?
I'd echo the same thing. I think everybody in our group, between the DISHIN brand and the Legacy House brand, all kind of came together, and like that's been the coolest part of it. Like everybody really stepped up and had some sort of role that they played and to help really bring this thing to life. Whether that be Chad with bringing the three heads, or Matt bringing the merch together. You Tony and Bevass, really like welcoming the talent like some of the models and talent have never really met any of our groups. So like you guys really stepped up and like made them feel welcome and made them feel like they were really going to be a part of something special. And then when we got to that point during the shoot where we were kind of briefing them, telling them what was going on, it seemed they were super stoked about it.
Yeah, everything went smooth, which was really awesome.
I would say the same. I would jump in there and say the same thing. Going back to a point that you said earlier that I really liked about how we can give each other constructive criticism and feedback without hurting anybody's feelings, because I think that's rare, and I think that we do that really well within our group.
I think that's key.
So
too.
I lean on you for a lot of that, and that, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. For sure. I think that's key too, because one thing I see so much is people are always like, don't do business with friends. You can't do business with friends. And I think for a lot of people that is true. But I think, like you're saying, like you need to be able to separate like business from your friendship and be able to tell each other straight up just any constructive criticism and just be honest about stuff. Because at the end of the day, we were even, just having a conversation about the direction of the podcast and different things with this. And it's like, no one really gets their feelings hurt over their opinion. Like we're all just trying to make the best stuff possible. And I think, again, when you're kind of working towards like a collective goal, like that's just the way you need to approach it. And for anyone out there, whatever, like you could be younger, or I guess it really doesn't even matter what your age, but it's like, if you're going to do business with friends, like you need to have that sort of relationship where, you can be real with each other and not, take it to heart and stuff. I think that's where it comes from. Everyone bringing something to the table too and having their own skill set, because it's like, I think we all just respect each other's opinions on different stuff. So I think that's definitely key in making this all kind of go around. But
exactly. Yeah,
I think we can pretty much wrap it up there. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to touch on. Like I said, we're going to do probably a follow-up episode to this, talking a little bit more about, kind of the next stages. We pretty much touched on a lot today of, start to where we're at right now. But, when you guys are seeing this, we're going to be getting ready for the actual rollout of the drop. Going to Chicago, seeing some of this stuff in person and everything like that. So super excited for that. If anyone has any like questions or you want to know any other details about this, shoot us a tweet or drop them in the comments or wherever. But you guys got anything else? I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think if anybody's made it to this far in the episode, like reach out to us and let us know like what you like about like this project is cool, because we got to do a deep dive on it. And like I think looking back, like the first question we're gonna get is like, how did you guys do this, like, with the Hawks? And I think we hit it from the beginning. It's like, you know, it's cool to say that they came to us, you know, that it was really organic and natural, and we've known them for a few years, so that made it a lot easier. But yeah, that was really cool. And yeah, for anybody who's made it this far, like, this is fun to do. I really enjoyed doing this, and would encourage anybody to reach out and provide feedback or see what they like or what we can do moving forward. I think it's cool to do these deep dives on the episode to kind of peel back a few layers and show everybody what it's like. But yeah, I enjoy this. It's fun.
Yeah, this was great.
Good job, Nick.
Yeah, thanks. Good job, Jared. Good job,
Anything
boys.
else?
Cut.
Yeah.